In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how long voice therapy should be for voice feminization. It's something that I or one of my associates always explains to the client at the start. We have quite a set program that takes people through voice feminization, but the reality is some people need less sessions and some people might need a few more because there's no actual length that you can really prescribe. Some services will give 3 sessions, some will give 4, some will give 6. And sometimes that's quite restrained if it's in a public health service. But a good length of sessions, I often think, is about 12. Because if you think about what you're asking yourself to do, it's quite a lot. To change the sound of your voice is not something that would really happen in about 3 or 4 sessions. It's a bit like learning to drive a car, which you may have heard me say before, but I think it's one of the best analogies, or riding a horse or something. You can learn how to do the basic things to get in a car and do the maneuvers or sit on the horse and feel a bit comfortable trotting. But with the best will in the world, to be able to just gallop confidently and jump over fences or to drive on a motorway is not something that happens in 3 or 4 lessons. What does happen once you get over a certain tipping point of lessons is that things graduate and they habituate and they generalize, and that is a basis of all voice therapies to get someone to the goal. And the goal means going through various stages to get you to the end. And that might be for some people, they want a voice that's perceived as female. If some people want a voice that's perceived as gender neutral, it might be less sessions. But if a female perceived voice is the goal, then it's just working through the program. Now, why do some people take to it quicker than others? That's something I don't really know, but some people do. And some people do in an unbelievably quick way, in ways that have surprised me in my career. I've had some people achieve this voice in about 3 or 4 sessions that's really well feminized and they're really happy with it, and it just seems to stay there, and it's a quick thing and you never know who is going to take to it like that. And that's why I always think voice therapy is worth trying, because you might just be one of these people that it does work. The reality, however, is that most people are quite fearful of voice therapy, or they're quite fearful perhaps for social anxiety reasons or other types of anxiety reasons, or maybe just highly vocally dysphoric. That's not uncommon. So we're always working with those 2 things, trying to work with the voice exercises to change the voice. That's why for some people it will take longer, because those other issues really influence how someone's feeling. Many people say to me, I don't think this is going to work. I'm going to give it a go, but I'm not sure. And I feel quite frightened, or I never use my voice outside. And we just start and see. And some people do much better than they think quickly. And some people it's quite a struggle. But if they're motivated and they just want to keep trying and working through, inevitably they make some really good gains. It's a bit like how long is a piece of string, but people do better than they think, and the people who need more support or just need to do it for longer, that's just what we do. And it's a bit like some people will pass their driving test the first time and some people need to take it several times. But that's life, and you just work with each individual person and try to work towards their goals. Very often, when people feel doubtful about their voice, or they haven't practiced, for example, they feel they haven't practiced enough, it's very tempting to think, I'll just delay the next session and it'll give me more time to practice. But that's actually one of the worst things that you can do, because once you increase the gaps between the sessions, it takes longer to get back on track. If you think about that, using the driving a car analogy, if you left the lessons longer and longer apart, would that build your confidence or lower the confidence? I think it would lower it. I certainly remember when I was learning to drive, it was much better if the lessons weren't too far apart, because in reality, you don't drive the car in between each lesson. Some people are lucky that somebody might take them out, but most of us have to just wait till the next lesson. And even if you just do that with your voice lessons and you just have your lessons and don't do much practice in between, there's still a really good chance that the voice change will happen, because actually most of the work is done in the session. So by having them not too far apart, you're building up the momentum quicker, and that usually builds up the ability quicker, will then in turn build up the confidence bigger. So don't feel tempted just to keep delaying and delaying. Many people don't practice as much as they want, and sometimes it's because they're self-conscious, sometimes because they forget or they're busy. But if we try to find a very quick practice routine for most people so that it's very manageable, and even if they skip 1 or 2, as long as they don't keep lengthening the gaps between their sessions, that would really help just build the momentum and get the most value out of your sessions. If you can tie a practice routine, a very short practice routine, onto an activity of daily living, that's really helpful. For example, waiting for a kettle to boil is a good chance just to do a number list or to practice a little sequence like the days of the week. There's always somewhere where you can usually fit in a bit of practice that doesn't even involve you sitting separately down and going into a dark room or something and doing some study by yourself. You can just tie it into an activity of daily living. Some people might tie it onto after they brush their teeth, for example. So you can say 1 or 2 sequences, counting 1 to 10, trying the techniques out. If you can, do some practice of the longer sessions and perhaps the text that the therapist has given you, and go through the session plan at least once or twice before the next lesson. That would also accelerate your learning. Most importantly, even when you're having doubts and not thinking how it's going well or thinking you're not doing well, everybody thinks they're not doing well, everybody. But actually they're usually doing fine, and they're usually doing more than fine for the level that they're at. People's expectations of themselves are often very high. They feel they should be doing much better because they've had 2 or 3 sessions. And I always say for 2 or 3 sessions, you're doing really well. And that it does take time just to habituate the voice, but all the while that ability is growing. So just try and hold fast and hold the doubts, and hopefully the therapist will hold you through the doubts. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel.